Time-lapse video of the Kenneth Fire in the San Fernando Valley. It's just more proof of how fiercely Santa Ana winds are impacting this firefight.
That's right. The gusts picking back up tonight as more fires break out. Chief Meteorologist Nick Gregory joins us now with the update, and that's obviously sobering news, Nick.
It really is, and the pattern hasn't changed, and it won't for about another 24 hours for the short term anyway. Still that area of high pressure anchored to the north, a little storm center, a little pressure area off to the south and east. So the air gets funneled between those two systems and then rides in out of the northeast, goes up over the mountains and comes back on down. It warms up, it dries out, and those are the ingredients for these fires to really become a problem. Now, here's some of the latest wind conditions. These are the sustained winds. Again, sustained at 43 miles an hour here and back down towards the California-Arizona border. But we're going to look at the gusts of winds, and you can almost see where the terrain kind of models where the higher gusts are found here. This is gusting to 57 miles an hour now, and this is the problem. The winds were expected to pick up tonight, and they certainly have. They'll continue for about another 24 hours. Then we're going to get a little break, but I think they may have another Santa Ana wind event coming up in the early part of next week. The smoke plume again coming out. You can see which way the wind direction is blowing, and you can also see a couple of little red patches here, some of those new fires that Sharon was just speaking of that have started to pop up as well. So those we need to keep an eye on. The big fire, though, is still burning. Again, you can see the brighter red color here, so it's extremely hot. This is the Palisades fire. That's still a big problem, and this is the Altadena fire, which we were just talking about. You can see that that still really has not changed all that much during today. Stephen, Natasha?
Wow. All right, thanks, Nick. Take a look at this staggering video. A golf course in Altadena reduced to rubble by the Eaton fire. But the American flag that stood outside, it's still flying, albeit in tatters. That golf course dating back to 1910. And people in Southern California are suffering, desperately needing help, and it's coming in from all corners of the nation. Coming up at 10:30, all new, we're going to show how a local group in our area is helping those out west. And the Fox Corporation has made a $1 million donation to the Red Cross's California wildfires relief efforts. You can join our support in helping those who are impacted. Just visit go.fox/Red Cross, or you can just scan the QR code you see on your screen.
Now, President-elect Donald Trump's sentencing in his hush money case that is set for tomorrow in Lower Manhattan.
All right, the Supreme Court refusing his final bid to keep the case on hold. Let's go to Fox 5's Teresa Priolo, who's live outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan with the latest tonight. Teresa.
Will proceed as planned, telling the incoming president that if he has an issue with this case, he can take it up on appeal. This is what President Trump had to say at Mar-a-Lago tonight.
I respect the court's opinion. I think it was actually a very good opinion for us because you saw what they said. But they invited the appeal, and the appeal is on the bigger issue. So we'll see how it all works out. I think it's going to work out well.
So tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m., this is how this is all going to go down. DA Alvin Bragg, Trump's attorneys, and Judge Juan Merchan will appear in a Manhattan courtroom right behind me. Trump will appear virtually to be sentenced in the hush money case. He was convicted of attempting to cover up a $130,000 hush payment to porn star Stormy Daniels as a way to influence the 2016 election. Trump has consistently maintained his innocence. Trump has asked New York's Court of Appeals to delay his sentencing. They declined. He then asked the Supreme Court to delay it. They also passed. His team has argued that sentencing Trump should be protected by presidential immunity, and sentencing him would, quote, inflict grave injustice and harm on the presidency. Here is not only DA Alvin Bragg, but also a legal expert to explain.
It's where we are. And as we've sort of briefed in our court filings, we believe that the sanctity of the jury verdict must be given primacy, must be upheld as part of the rule of law, but we're also mindful of and respect the institution of the presidency, and so this is where we are.
Judge Merchan, in his decision, talked about the safety of the jury's verdict and how important that is. He's also said that he was going to give Trump an unconditional discharge, which essentially means the case is over. There's, like you were saying, there's no fine, there's no prison, there's no probation, there's literally no conditions. And so it's over after that. And that goes to this idea that the Supreme Court said today in their one paragraph decision. There's no imposition on you past the fact that you're showing up on video tomorrow, and then it's over.
Now, Trump is set to be sworn in as president in less than 2 weeks. He has vowed to appeal his conviction. That's the latest from Lower Manhattan tonight. Natasha, back to you.
All right, Teresa, thank you so much. And this just in tonight, a federal appeals court has cleared the way for the public release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on the 2020 election interference case against Donald Trump. The court turned down a challenge from Trump and his co-defendants in his classified documents case, who are seeking to block the release of that report. The report will not immediately, though, be released because a lower court ruling temporarily blocked the releasing of the report. That remains in place for 3 days, and there could be more appeals.
Well, a somber day across the United States as America says its final farewell to former President Jimmy Carter.
We'll take you to the National Cathedral, where several high-profile guests, including every living former president, came together to remember the 39th president on this National Day of Mourning.
Laying out his vision for New Yorkers, Mayor Adams holds his annual State of the City address as he kicks off his bid for re-election this year. Mayor Adams delivering his fourth State of the City address this afternoon at Harlem's historic Apollo Theater, where he laid out his vision for New York in 2025.
Fox 8's Morgan Mackay has more on the message the mayor is sending and the changes he is promising to make.
Today, I want to talk about how we can make New York City the best place to raise a family.
And that starts with affordability and safety, according to Mayor Eric Adams. It was his last State of the City address of at least his first term. Adams outlined his 2025 agenda while also using it as an opportunity to lay out his campaign strategy for his re-election bid, with the primary just 6 months away.
People need to be safe, but they also need to feel safe.
When it comes to public safety, Adams is launching a new homeless outreach initiative to help remove people living on the streets and subways. Adams is also looking to Albany to make changes to the reforms made to the state's discovery laws in 2019. And it's a fight also being led by State Attorney General Letitia James.
I'm working with a number of district attorneys. A significant number of their cases have been dismissed as a result of their inability to meet discovery obligations.
Adams also unveiled what he is calling the Manhattan Plan that will create 100,000 new homes in Manhattan over the next decade, the equivalent of creating a brand new Upper West Side neighborhood.
Businesses are looking at the difficulty of getting affordable housing for their employees. Number one reason for taking jobs out of New York. So very important.
But while Adams laid out his vision, some chalked it up to empty campaign promises, pointing to the reality that Adams is facing a 5-count federal corruption and bribery indictment.
My biggest concern is that it seems to be following the Trump playbook of how to campaign while facing these legal issues.
The mayor's primary opponents will be facing off against Adams in June, also jumping on the opportunity to criticize Adams.
One of the few things I agreed with the mayor on was his description of today as a performance, because that's what it was.
New Yorkers want honest, effective leadership. They don't want more pomp and circumstances and empty promises.
Now, there were also several protests outside the Apollo Theater, including one being led by the union that represents NYPD sergeants over pay disparities. Reporting outside the Apollo Theater, I'm Morgan Mackay, Fox 5 News.
A wreath-laying ceremony held today in the Bronx to commemorate the 3-year anniversary of the deadly Twin Parks apartment fire on January 9th, 2022. 17 people lost their lives in a fire at the Twin Parks Northwest building in the Fordham Heights section. The 5-alarm fire was New York City's deadliest in decades.
25-year-old Billy DeMaio laid to rest today in Homedale, New Jersey. He's one of the 14 victims that was killed in an ISIS-inspired attack in New Orleans on New Year's Day. DeMaio's funeral was held at St. Catherine's Church in Homedale. On Friday, the state of Louisiana will honor Billy. They're recognizing each victim with a special day, paying tribute to those who lost their lives in the attack.
The New Orleans PD hires former NYPD Commissioner Bill Bratton as a security consultant. This comes after the New Year's Day terror attack that killed 14 people in the French Quarter. Bratton specializes in risk assessment and response with a New York-based consulting and advisory firm. His goal will be to map out ways to harden security in New Orleans, especially before the city hosts the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras.
Team I'll be bringing in, they are incredible subject matter experts on a wide range of issues relative to dealing with security and counterterrorism issues. But they're coming in to collaborate. They're coming in to review, to interact.
Bratton's contract is being paid by the nonprofit New Orleans Police and Justice Foundation.
Well, it's hard to believe, but the first work week of congestion pricing is about to come to a close.
And there are many concerns to go around as drivers adjust to our new normal. Fox 5's Kendall Green takes a look at where things stand.
Whether your foot's on the pedal or the pavement, the impact of congestion pricing is coming into clear focus as the average $9 toll imposed on drivers entering the city's business district appears to be easing congestion so far.
It's a lot less cars also around this neighborhood now.
Pedestrians note a smaller volume of drivers along 2nd and East 60th, where the zone begins.
There's usually a lot of cars up in this crosswalk. And it's been so quiet, it just feels like a regular road now.
The MTA is aiming to make major cuts into the roughly 700,000 weekday drivers entering the congestion zone as commuters adjust for their wallet's sake.
It's been a lot more crowded though. We've been taking subway more often as well.
MTA data shows ridership up every day so far, including Wednesday, which recorded 3.8 million subway riders, more than 7.8% the same Wednesday last year. And bus ridership rose 4% year over year that same day.
I'm not sure, has the traffic been pushed further north now?
That's where the Moshes brothers come in, the creators of congestionpricingtracker.com.
We're comparing days now after congestion pricing to an average of days before, and we're seeing how different the traffic is.
They found tunnels and bridges leading into the congestion zone were the most impacted. For example, the Lincoln Tunnel.
Pre-congestion pricing, it would take 10 minutes. Now we're seeing times of 3 or 4 minutes.
Now we talked to a few commuters who say the Queensboro Bridge is an example of the immediate real-time impact you see of congestion pricing, because they say normally you see these cars bumper to bumper, but that's not the case. How long did it take you to get across?
I'm coming from Astoria, like 15 minutes.
How long does it normally take you?
40 minutes.
The Moshes brothers tracker found routes going through the congestion zone didn't see a dramatic change.
We're unsure why that is.
Still, with a ton of new data under review, it's clear the tolls are repelling some drivers. Kendall Green, Fox 5 News.
Well, Americans coming together today to celebrate the life and legacy of a former president.
All right, straight ahead, we're going to take you to the National Cathedral as America says goodbye to Jimmy Carter.
And could the clock be ticking for TikTok here in the U.S.? What a case going before the Supreme Court tomorrow could mean for the 150 million Americans who use the app.
A final farewell to America's longest-living former president, Jimmy Carter. President Biden delivered the eulogy at today's funeral service in Washington, D.C.
The ceremony featured family, friends, and every living former president before President Carter was returned to his beloved Georgia. One last time, Fox 5's Linda Schmidt shows us how Jimmy Carter was remembered and the legacy he leaves behind.
Hundreds packed into Washington National Cathedral to pay their final respects to Jimmy Carter, America's 39th president. Every living former president attending the celebration of his life, a life of service. As is customary, the sitting president delivering the eulogy. President Biden speaking about his longtime friend, a man of faith.
In this life, any walk of faith can be difficult. It can be lonely. But it requires action to be the doers of the world.
And Jimmy Carter was a doer. The peanut farmer from Plains, Georgia, went on to become the governor and then president. In 1976, Carter defeated Gerald Ford in a bitter campaign, but they went on to become close friends. Before he died, Ford wrote a tribute to Carter, and Ford's son delivered those remarks today.
During our 1976 contest, Jimmy knew my political vulnerabilities, and he successfully pointed them out. Now, I didn't like it, but little could I know that the outcome of that 1976 election would bring about one of my deepest and most enduring friendships.
Much of Carter's legacy was cemented after he left the White House, building homes for the poor with Habitat for Humanity. In 2002, he won a Nobel Peace Prize for the work he did along with the Carter Center that he established to resolve conflicts around the world and fight for human rights. His grandson Jason talking lovingly about his grandparents' humble beginnings, which they never left behind.
Their main phone, of course, had a cord and was stuck to the wall in the kitchen, like a museum piece. and demonstrating their Depression-era roots, they had a little rack next to the sink where they would hang Ziploc bags to dry.
Carter died last month at the age of 100. After one final journey back to Plains, Georgia, Carter will be buried in his hometown, next to his wife, Rosalind. Linda Schmidt, Fox 5 News.
And we, of course, are on top of breaking news out of Southern California.
Yeah, the wildfires raging with new fires cropping up as winds strengthen. And as the race to contain them is on, a local group in our area is sending much-needed relief and supplies out west.
All right, TikTok's fate hanging in the balance tonight ahead of a case going before the Supreme Court tomorrow. What it could mean for the popular app.
For all the people in need of help, it's on the way and coming from our area.
All right, AmeriCare is in Stamford, Connecticut, one of the local organizations collecting donations and coordinating the shipping out of supplies out west. Fox 5's Stephanie Bertini introduces us to the volunteers who are hard at work.
There's diabetes medication, hygiene kits, respiratory meds, and other medical supplies. Boxes and boxes ready to be shipped out to California.
Boxed and ready to go. Here in the AmeriCare's Global Distribution Center in Stamford, Connecticut, the work is underway as the calls for help are expected to start pouring in.
We have medicine and medical supplies all ready to go for the wildfires in California.
AmeriCare spokesperson Donna Porsner says the organization has for years responded to disasters around the world, like the current wildfires in Los Angeles.
There's just enormous need right now. I mean, we're already getting requests from the partner organizations.
As the wildfires rage on the West Coast, this nonprofit knows what to expect when it comes to medical relief.
People are evacuating their homes very quickly. Often they leave with very little in terms of hygiene supplies, medications, and so in those initial days of crisis, we know that there's going to be a huge need for basic items like hygiene supplies, soap, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes. But we also know that in the coming days, people are going to find that they're without their medications.
Dr. Julie Varghese is the organization's Senior VP of Programs and Chief Medical Officer.
In those initial days of crisis, we know that there's going to be a huge need for basic items like hygiene supplies, soap, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes. But we also know that in the coming days, people are going to find that they're without their medications. And so that can include personal stocks, but also clinics that have been damaged.
For people with health conditions, the medicine could mean life or death.
Acute chronic exacerbation is something that we often see in disasters.
And there are other health concerns too.
Mental health is a huge component.
The nonprofit is focused on helping as many people on the West Coast are dealing with immense loss and displacement.
If you'd like to help, go to AmeriCares.org. A specific fund is now set up accepting donations for the California wildfires relief efforts. Reporting in Stamford, Connecticut, I'm Stephanie Bertini, Fox 5 News.
The Fox Corporation has made a $1 million donation to the Red Cross's California wildfire relief effort. You can join our support in helping those who've been impacted. Just visit go.fox/Red Cross, or you can just scan the QR code you see on your screen. And you can see live pictures of the wildfires by scanning the QR code on your screen. That's how you can download our free Fox local app.